Tesla is set to report its first quarter results later today. Investors will hear from Elon Musk in the wake of company layoffs, price cuts, and the public attention to his pay package. Joining us right now for more on the company's governance as we head into that report is Gautam Mukunda. He is lecturer in the practice of management at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. He's also the author of 2 books on leadership. And Gautam, why don't we start with who Elon Musk is and what he's accomplished to this point?
I mean, it's not a minor. It's not a minor story. If you created a character in a comic book and called about Elon Musk, even comic book writers might call it implausible. He reinvented automotive transportation, and in SpaceX, which might actually be his most impressive company, has cut the cost of putting something in orbit by a factor of 27, not 27%, a factor of 27. So that scale of achievement makes you understand why his board and why corporate governance have cut him a lot of slack over the last few years. But it might be time for that slack to end.
Why do you say that?
So if we step back for a second, let's say that you believe that Elon is a business genius. And, you know, I'm not going to argue that you're wrong, given the scale of his track record. The thing about being a genius is that it's a retrospective title. You only have to do it once. You only have to be right once when everyone else in the world is wrong, and you get to sort of claim that for the rest of your life. And the thing is about even the greatest geniuses who've ever lived is they don't get to be right. They're not right all the time. Albert Einstein is the greatest physicist of the 20th century. He's the person we sort of always cite as the ultimate example of a genius. And Albert Einstein made no real significant contributions to physics after general relativity because he just could not accept where physics was going. He was still a genius. It just means that he wasn't right anymore. So in the case of Elon Musk,
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, in the case of Elon Musk, right, like the fact that he was right about electric cars, the fact that he was right about SpaceX doesn't mean that he's going to be right now. It might mean that in fact, the very tendencies that made him so gifted earlier make him really poorly suited to running a company of 150,000 people that's facing disruptive challenges completely unlike those he's mastered in the past.
Gautam, I hear your point. Just because you're a genius once, or in Elon Musk's case, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 times, doesn't make you right on everything. But if you're looking at that leader who founded a company, or 2 companies, or 3 companies, versus a board of directors who's been along for the ride, I might pick sides with the founder more often than not. If I'm playing the odds of who's more likely to be right, if I'm playing the odds of, you know, where I think I'm best off, that might be how I would go down with it too. Again, not that anybody's right on everything. Nobody's right on everything. But you can probably look and play odds with somebody you think is more likely to be right. And I think that's why so many of these founders and geniuses are given so much leeway. They saw things nobody else did. You can look at Mark Zuckerberg, who, you know, everybody else on his board thought he was crazy for not selling for $1 billion when he got an offer that came in. I mean, there are reasons that they are where they are, and they may not be right all the time. But if they're sticking within their own businesses, not getting outside of their lanes, you might be playing the right odds by sticking with them.
So, I mean, I think that's a very natural human tendency. And look, if I was on the board of Tesla, I would say, hey, Elon, I'm going to give you a lot of benefit of the doubt that you were right when other people were wrong because you've been it before. But that is, so I'd say that natural human tendency is actually a way to betray us. Like, you know, to pick the same example, if physicists had done that for Einstein for 30 years, they would have physics would have been delayed for 30 years as they just didn't pursue all the avenues that were right. So in Elon's case, it's not that he doesn't, you know, it's not that he hasn't done this in the past. Let me set 2 sets of problems. One is Tesla now is very different from Tesla 10 years ago. And when you think about leadership selection, when you think about who the right leader for an organization is, what I often tell my students is that leadership is not a ranking problem, it is a matching problem. You're not looking through the question of who is the best person in the world in all circumstances. That's not how leadership works. What you're thinking is who is the right person for the particular set of circumstances that we're in today. The very fact that Elon Musk was, you know, for the early years of Tesla, not just the right person amongst some set, but the most right person in the history of business, doesn't mean that he's the right person now when the situation Tesla is facing is completely different. And in particular, it doesn't mean that he's the right person who should operate without restraint. So I'm not saying he's the wrong person. What I'm saying is if you are the board, you also have business judgment. It's your job to ask him, okay, what is your strategy for dealing with Chinese electric cars that are going to come onto the market at $20,000 a car? He may have a strategy that no one else would come up with, but you, even if you couldn't come up with it, are able to evaluate it. And that is your job.